It's very interesting. Everything we are really looking for in our lives is within. Everything. And everyone who gets born into the world looks for it without. We're all looking for love, acknowledgement, understanding, recognition, and we want the world to give it to us. And it never does. I mean, it gives it to you in the only way that it can, which is temporarily. And part of the poignancy of everything that the world gives you is that it also takes it away. And in a certain sense, it's always taking away as it's giving. So that we all know we're being betrayed. Every one of us. We all sense in some very deep and unsatisfied way that it's all for naught. That no matter what you get, you give it up. It's hard to live with that. And I think a lot of people really do struggle. I think the cause of a lot of mental illness is just a deep sense of reality. That everybody around us is looking like they have the answer. Everyone seems to be convinced that somehow there is stuff to be gained in the world that will give you what you're looking for. We call it power, money, love, position, achievement. And from a very young age, we see everybody striving for all these things, and so we just jump on the bandwagon. We want it too. And every so often, you get this intimation that, what am I doing? You know, what is this? And not always do you get that, but I have to say when you do get that, it's a kind of a wake-up call. It's a kind of sense of, there's got to be more than this. I remember as a kid always wondering why I can't stay happy. What am I doing wrong? Why do I get happy? At moments I don't even understand. You know, suddenly I'm just happy. And then suddenly it's gone. And I go, well, how did I get it and what did I do wrong? How do I get to keep it? Clearly there must be a way that will give it to me permanently. And I never found it. And I used to really suffer with that. And I was sure that I was doing something wrong, and that there was something in life ahead for me, down the road for me, that would bring it, that would deliver it. And a lot of things did. My wife, my children, elements of my job, grandchildren definitely, all brought these experiences of great joy and happiness. But then I would wake up some days miserable and go, well, whoa, why am I miserable? And for me, the thing that was most instructive came, 50 years ago, when I took a drug, LSD, and the LSD did one interesting thing. It showed me that this world was not what it appeared to be, on any level. That it was more of a dream, of a construct, of a infinite expression of something that I could not understand. And I didn't know what I had just seen. I had no idea. And then I started trying to read about it, and what I discovered is that I had had a mystical experience. Now, most mystical experiences are things we imagine just happen to people without any kind of chemical. And, people have these unexpected explosions of consciousness. And they're very interesting because people come back and talk about them a lot. And they talk about all these strange things like permanent bliss, pure joy, infinite unfolding of awareness. All of these things that you want, at least I wanted suddenly to get and attain. And so I began the journey to finding happiness, kind of going to India and going to all of these ashrams and meeting all of these people. And they didn't look all that happy to me, to be honest, the ones that I was meeting, and definitely the people surrounding the teachers all looked like they were failing on some level. They weren't getting it. And I remember being really thrown by it. I remember sitting with Ananda Mahima, who I really, really felt connected to, and who I think really did get it. And talking to the people in her ashram, and they were struggling. They were just struggling, the ones I talked to, because she had it and they didn't know. They'd been there for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and hadn't happened yet. And I worried about that. And, I went and met His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he gave me a long lecture on how much we need to learn. And he talked about memorizing all these books that the Tibetan monks memorized, and that he in a past life past lives had clearly memorized, and now, because he had been incarnated many times, he knew them all. He knew all the answers. He could test him on any question, and he would have all the answers. But I tell you, he didn't look happy. He had escaped not all that long before from Tibet. He had a country in havoc. Life was not easy. He was living in exile. He was calm. I liked him deeply. I understood what he calls his compassion. He definitely expressed enormous compassion. But I didn't see the happiness. I came back from India, having met many, many teachers, and met Rudy. And the thing I was most intrigued about with Rudy, something Stephen was mentioning this morning, he loved life. He loved it. He was having a great time. Life to him was not easy. I don't know that I would even call him happy. But he was totally engaged in the challenge. He was into it. He really loved making money. He loved selling art. He loved discovering art. He loved teaching. He loved coming up here to the country. He just loved stuff. And us. He loved us. I could feel it. I mean, whenever he hugged me, I felt, wow, who hugs you like that? Not many people. And I just felt embraced by this, and I felt he was teaching me something that seemed really important. And mostly what he was teaching me was how to get my act together. That I was clearly not in alignment on a lot of levels. And I really decided that if I can get that alignment, then happiness will follow. That I may have found the road to permanent happiness. And he did incredible things in terms of what I would imagine would be called reparenting. Forgive me if I'm repeating stories you've heard, but my father would always ask me to mow the lawn, and I would maybe do half of the lawn. I'd say, I'm too tired. I did it. You can finish it. I never completed a task, not never, but often failed to. And he would go out and finish cutting the lawn, and I would always feel a little bit guilty. When I met Rudy, he had me working and working and working, especially around here, Big Indian. You know, there were gardens to be worked on. There was always jobs, woods to be cleared. It went on and on. And I realized he was causing me to complete the stuff I didn't do with my dad. The jobs that were not finished, I was finishing. And I was grateful for that. You know, I worked harder with Rudy than I ever worked with anybody, and the word work was really, for the first time in my life, positive word. I really got it. I got the idea that there's work to be done, and I was really going to find a way to make myself a whole person who would therefore then be happy. And it didn't happen. And worst of all, he died. He died. How could that happen? The one person who I thought had all the answers and could get me there suddenly was no longer available. So I realized, well, kiddo, you're on your own. You're on your own. You're going to have to figure this out all by yourself. Well, first of all, I didn't want to do that. There were other people teaching Rudy's work, and I thought, well, if I study with them, and then I found that was not the answer. And again, the lesson, you're on your own. Really, there's no one else going to do this for you. The one thing Rudy kept teaching me is go deep inside. Go deep inside. And as I went and sat and did my meditations, and I discovered my chakras, I discovered these spaces inside, and I talk about them. I talk about the third eye and how when it opens, it feels like understanding. And I started understanding a lot. And when I discovered my throat chakra, I discovered how I could articulate what I was feeling. I could find real words for what I wanted to express, all because of an opening in this throat chakra. In the chakra, I could speak to people around me. I could speak to myself. I really credited my entire career with the opening of my heart chakra, because I used to have to go into rooms of people and sell ideas on the spot, and I almost never came away without getting a job, because this thing spoke. It was open, there was flow. My heart chakra started to open, and I started to feel joy, love, a kind of contentment, a kind of well-being, which was really wonderful. But, you know, I would finish meditating, and I would get in my car and drive to work, and all the troubles of the world would be back in my head. And I thought, I can't meditate all day. I mean, I have to go to work, I have to do stuff, I have to live, I have to have a life. And so that was really problematic, because I couldn't get this thing to work all day long. I got down into my navel chakra. It took me a long time. My navel chakra was the place of power and drive and getting things done in the world. It's a place of activation, if you will. And I built a career, you know, and I built a solid career. And I reproduced, and I had children, you know, wonderful children. And I got energy to go up my spine and up out of my head into what you might call cosmic consciousness. I had enormous awareness. And my brain started to swell with kind of excitement of life and intelligence even. There was a kind of, for me, an intelligence, because I never was terribly intelligent. And I suddenly was seeing things that made sense, and I could talk about them. And this extraordinary thing of overflowing of my chakras, overflowing from the top of my head through all my chakras, started to create, as Rudy said, an integrated person. I became a whole person. And I thought, okay, I'm a whole person. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you one thing Rudy said. He said, becoming a whole person is not the goal of spiritual work. Becoming a whole person is the beginning of spiritual work. That was a key lesson. And I thought, okay, now that I'm a whole person, I am going to find joy. I'm going to find sustainable, endless happiness. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. I would still get sad. I would still get sick. I would tell you, my kids would have problems, and somebody said this to me a while back. I think it's really such a smart statement. You're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And boy, oh boy, my children's lives were causing me suffering. And it was really powerful. All of these years of working and attaining, finding that I was getting everything that life had to offer, but I still wasn't happy. And then, 6 years ago, attending a seminar on enlightenment, if you will, or non-duality, this Bruce character who's been looking for happiness all his life, who failed in a way to get it, disappeared. Boom. And the whole idea of seeking happiness went boom. And what was left when Bruce disappeared was this. Everything. Everything. But without anybody specifically moderating it. Without anybody trying to put it together. Without anybody seeking for a state other than the state that was happening. And with a discovery, a strange discovery, that everything was right as it was, or more specifically, present tense, everything is right as it is. And it was quite fascinating because something would happen in that state of being. Happiness would come in, and it would go out. Sadness would come in, it would go out. It wasn't mine. It wasn't anybody's. It just was. It just moved through some kind of whatever this is. Stuff came up and evaporated. Up and gone. I began to sense that there was no sustainable anything. There was just being. Just being. And when there was nobody around to want one kind of being over another kind, happiness over unhappiness, joy over misery, when there just was being, life began to explain itself. It just began to reveal itself over and over, more and more deeply, as it is what it is. It's hard to explain what that means because most of us sense life through the story, through the way we look at it, through how we interpret it, through how this biological entity experiences it. But when you take that out of the equation, not completely, because it's still there, obviously, there's still a body, there's still a personality, there's still a mind, there's still a history of sorts, but it has so little value. But what does have value is this. And the nature of this is so unknowable when there's nobody to know it. It's just what is happening. It's just what's happening. And what's happening, in the most fascinating way, is happening in every molecule of being. It's not happening to us, or even in us, it's just infinitely occurring. When awareness is aware of that, when you are aware of what I will call the miracle of being, you are suddenly conscious of being in the presence of the miraculous all the time. And that it's happening in such macrocosmic and microcosmic ways as we speak. And that when we are caught up in our story of, why aren't I happy? You are missing the point. The point is, you are one with, witness to, if you will, but more than witness, you are the living, breathing, universal dynamic of existence itself. That's what you are. And I know to talk this probably doesn't get at it. But I know when I walk down the street, and I've started walking a lot, when I walk down the street, the sidewalk speaks to me. The cracks in the sidewalk, the imperfections, the very fact that somebody laid that sidewalk and put it in place. I walk by people who are building a staircase down to a rather ramshackle house, but it's the most beautiful staircase, and they're putting in the cement. And the cement is setting up and drying. Every day as I watch it, it's becoming forming, it's solid, it's becoming something that's going to last a long time, and they're doing beautiful work, and they're creating a space for planters, and I'm looking at this and going, the work. And then I see everywhere I look at this carpet, and the weaving, and the floor, and the windows, and the statue of Nityananda behind me, and each of you, and I on and on and on, and I go, oh, this is happening. This is happening. And the awe that comes in that awareness is a living, dynamic principle that doesn't go away. It just goes all the time. I am not seeking happiness. I am not avoiding unhappiness. Happiness comes up out of nowhere and disappears into nothing. Fear arises. Why would fear arise? Because it's part of the content of existence. Because it's part of the structure of existence. Why do we work so hard as people? Why do we build sidewalks? Why do we build buildings, weave carpets, make statues, create movies? Why do we do that? Interesting. There are different dynamics at play. One of them is this incredible desire to create and to build, to manifest the world. That is a huge drive. The other thing is we're scared to death of not having enough food to eat, of not having a shelter, and not having clothes to wear to cover us and to keep us warm. So there are two factors. There is fear driving us, and there is ambition or drive or hunger to be part of a creative process. We are obligated as individual beings, as individual entities, to cooperate in the totality that we are. We are obligated. You can't get out of it. Well, I mean, you can. There are ways of getting out of the obligation. One is to do yourself in. And I don't think that really gets you out of it. I think it gets you immersed in something beyond your understanding, because really there is no out. There just is no out of it. There is only it. And being in it and serving it without this ego satisfaction, but just be out of the amazement of being part of it, is really what you come to when you wake up spiritually. You wake up and you understand, I am here to be. And part of being is doing. But if you spend all of your life looking to the doing and the outer existence of your life, if you spend your whole life looking outward, which is what most people do, you will be on a treadmill of unhappiness. And you will be on that treadmill because it will not deliver. It will give you tastes of things, tastes of the infinite. But if you really want to find the extraordinary richness of being, go inside. Go deep. Go deep. And as you go deep, you start to discover pools of love, oceans of love, well-being, knowing, clarity, you will discover the you that has always existed within. But there's still the you that's outside. There's still the outer. There's an inner and an outer. People who are trying to get to that pool of love, the ocean of love within, and thinking they can live there, will sometimes fail to know or remember that there is the outer. And that still calls you, that still demands your time and your attention. I don't care if you're living in a retreat, and people are bringing you food every day and you're sitting and meditating every day, you're still prone to the wind, the rain, the cold, the heat, the dynamics of the world. You're still in the world. And at some point, if people don't feed you, you got to get your food. And somehow you got to go to sleep and wake up in the day. No matter how awake you are, no matter how spiritually evolved you are, no matter how much you know the oneness of reality, there is, as long as you're embodied, there is a vast pull between polarities, if you will. And your job, more than anything else, is to just go, thy will be done. And what starts to happen is the flood of being that is within fills the world around you. And everything that is around you starts to be a reflection of what's within. And you start to see that it is either a dance, because at one point there's movement, or just an extraordinary stillness that pervades all reality. And you are both of those. You are all of that. You are the totality, the absolute existence and awareness. Knowing that, why are you so upset that the price of gas just went up? Why are you so upset that you can't get the internet connection when you're here? Why are you so upset that it's going to rain today? There are people who are not even here because it was going to rain today. There are people who aren't here because they had a stomach ache and are afraid that they're going to have a stomach ache here. Why do you live a life that is totally based on outer, based on fear, based on comfort, based on pursuing the thing that cannot be gotten? What are you doing? What are you doing? Every day. What are you doing? It's a really good question. And a lot of you can't really answer it. And those of you who are looking for answers are going to find something that is really hard to discover, which is you're in this alone. I don't care how many answers you find, those answers are somebody else's answers. You have to find it. This is your life. This is your ride. It's your drama. And these answers they're not the answers of philosophers and theologians, they're the answers of your inner being. What am I? Who am I? Why am I here? What is this? What is this? And there really comes a moment, again it has to do with awakening and enlightenment, where the question isn't essential, it's the amazement of the answer. Just the answer of this is. And it doesn't make sense because there's no one to have it make sense to. There's just it. And it keeps revealing itself in greater and greater wonder. So trust me, when you're walking down the street, the air you breathe is alive. The leaves falling off the tree are dancing. Everything is vibrant and incredible. Incredible. And you're missing it because you're worried about the internet not working. And I get that. I totally get it. Because I go through periods worrying about the internet not working, and then I look at that and I go, this too is part of the totality. My own failings are part of the totality. The moments that Bruce Rubin comes back into play, I go, well, why shouldn't it? Here's a body, it's been around for 73 years, why shouldn't it come into play? And then I don't get upset about it, I just go, there we go. It's part of the whole. I am separate from and one with everything. What does that mean? I don't know. But I know it's real. I know that I am, I guess in the end, that's the end of that. I know that I am. Finished. And that's all any of us know. But I'm telling you, the pursuit of your own singularity, the pursuit of surrender, which Rudy was fundamentally the teacher of, the idea, let go. Let go of everything. Let go of control. Let go of the dynamic of wanting to have or be something. Just let go and let it work. The amazing thing about it working is it wants to flower in the most perfect and beautiful way it can. And the more you get out of the way, the more it does it. It's an incredible dance. You know, my son's working on these video games and some virtual reality things. And one of the great things is entering a world that you know nothing about. Nothing. And then you've got to figure it out. What am I doing here? How did I get here? What are the rules? How does this work? What am I aiming for? And the game keeps leading you through it. It kind of unfolds a little bit at a time. And you explore all these amazing things, and each one gives you a little more information and a little more insight, and it kind of keeps you going. That's what this is. This virtual reality we're in called life. This is an amazing space, and it is molecularly alive, and we are figuring it out. But don't let somebody else figure it out for you, because they will not figure it out for you. They will give you what they figured out, and that may register to your brain, but the only real figuring it out is when you don't exist anymore. You figure it out, meaning you figure yourself out of the equation, really. And it's an extraordinarily important thing to have happen. It's funny because Buddha calls it the end of suffering, and people think that means that there is no more suffering. It just means there's no one to suffer. That's what it means. Suffering is still there. And what comes along with it, which is a really powerful thing, is the compassion that understands that suffering is built into the system. But when you become liberated, there's nobody there saying, woe is me. It's just happening. It's happening. And as long as you're biologically constructed into a body, there will be individual pain and suffering. But you will definitely understand it as universal. That's why compassion is so powerful. That's why the Dalai Lama's message is so powerful. Because you really, in the end, understand that your suffering is everyone's suffering, your joy is everyone's joy. We are one fabric. We are one interlocking whole. And the thing you're looking for and have always been looking for and will only find when you suddenly realize it is what's in front of you. It's the only thing you've ever been looking for is right in front of you. And if you think it's anywhere else, you will suffer with that. That's all I can tell you. You're not going to find it elsewhere. It's only here. The end. Any questions? That's great. That really is all I have to say. That, you're looking at the thing you're looking for, and you are the thing you've been seeking. This is not new, but it's totally real. And if it comes across as just somebody talking, so sorry. But if you can get it in any way, if you can step into it, if you can pull it over your head and wear it like a warm sweater, if you can just discover that this is real, that this is true, you will have a different life. And it's what you've been looking for all the time. Yes. Okay. I wrote a letter to a guy in Croatia the other day, answering some questions. And I just said exactly the same things I'm saying to you right now. And he wrote me back and said, I get it. I get it. And he was so happy, you know. He just, like, it was like, oh, I get it. That's all I want. That's all I want, is for it to go directly into your psyche, so there's nothing there interpreting it going but. Because it's not that hard. It's just not that hard. And yet we're so co-opted by our limited mind and our story and our suffering and our sadness and all this stuff and our search for happiness, you know. We're all so co-opted by it. Let it go. Let it go. Jump in the pool. Dive in. George.
I think most people, including myself, are always looking for somebody to tell them where to go and what to do. And it's really what you're always saying. The end result is you got to surrender to the guru and do it yourself.
Yeah, because when you're alone and dying, there's no guru telling you what to do, and if they are, they're going to mess you up. Because you're going to be trying to do what they say. You got to do what your thing says. And if your mind is trying to guide you, that's going to mess you up too. That's why I'm saying the outer is kind of misguided. The inner is where the core information lies. It's really there. The guidance system, the navigating system is within, and it's in everybody. And most of us touch it on occasion. But some people never touch it. And in the end, it's the only thing that will get you into the next, whatever is going to come next. This is, if you don't know your inner being, how are you going to find it? And let's talk about a general day in your life. How many things in your daily life point inward? Name one. You know, other than, unless you have a meditation practice, what tells you to go in? The radio doesn't. You know, eating breakfast, watching TV, reading the newspaper.
Everything's a distraction.
Everything's taking you out and away. Everything. And you're looking for happiness out there in the middle of all of that distraction. Can't happen. Just can't happen. And it will continue to distract until you finally say, I'm looking in the wrong place. And then you stop and go in. You know, I gave a talk a few weeks ago. It was stop, sit, stay. That was it, like an animal, training an animal. Train this mind to do that. Really important. And I don't meet many people who do. I really don't. And it's very frustrating because, you know, I've been teaching a long time. And a lot of people have been listening to this a long time. It's got to be embraced. And I saw an incredible, didn't like it, but a movie the other day called Last Days in the Desert, about Christ's time in the desert. And he went out in the desert to be alone and ended up in this movie meeting a family and was saying to himself, well, I don't want to stay with this family. I came here to be alone. But he ended up staying with the family and working through a lot of drama with that family. But I think what he really understood is, you're still alone. He's with this family and all this drama, but he's alone. And then he's on the cross. And I don't want to spoil the movie for people, but I think you all know how the story ends. But they did something which I've never seen, which was really beautiful, which he's hanging on the cross and clearly as alone as you can ever get in the world. And a hummingbird came right next to him and just stared right into his eyes. And I don't even know why the filmmaker did it, other than that it felt like, yes, yes. It was so beautiful. We are alone and we're not alone. And that little hummingbird, that whatever that is within us, that reaches out to us, that waves hello, you know, that we want it, we've got to find that. It's essential that we find it. And I keep thinking, finding it on your deathbed is not the best time. It's just not the best time. First of all, you probably miss it. And secondly, if you find it at that moment, it's going to be, oh my God, you've been there the whole time and I didn't see you. Better that than nothing. But a lot of people leave without even that. They're just going, ah, the end. Terrible. That's not, I mean, life offers so much more than that. So much more. And not to live. If I didn't get to have what I'm getting walking down the street every day, I would have missed out so much. Literally every molecule of life is talking to me. It's just talking to me and saying, what an amazement it is that it's cohering with another molecule, that it's locking into something solid that my feet stand on. And when I take a step, it offers me this unbelievable trust that it's going to keep holding together while I stand on it. What is that? Why is this platform here and not falling apart? Why am I alive? Why am I sitting in this world that supports me? Why was this blanket sitting over there because I was cold? You know, you look at all that stuff and go, well, there's a blanket, and yeah, this is a platform that they built. No! The universe made this for you. For you. This roof, these windows, that sky, that sun, for you. Not everybody, you can say it, but for you. And if you don't get that message, when are you going to get it? What else can you get? It's right in front of you saying, I'm here for you. Take me in. This is amazing. This is wondrous. This is a miracle. It's yours. It's yours. Don't walk around worrying about not getting an internet connection. Not right.
I was going to say that I think we're brought into this space indoctrinated by our own story. Our parents tell us, this is what I did, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
Or you
yeah.
should do this.
We're programmed.
And, right.
Absolutely.
And until you have that moment of there must be something else, I think you can go through your whole life just like that.
Right. Well, the mystical experience is really one of the great gifts that humanity gives. I think it gives it to people and they just blow it off really quickly. They go, what was that? Boy, that was weird.
Well, and I think when these doors open, if you're not ready, you don't get it.
Right.
So I think there's a time when the door opens and you...
I agree.
You see
I
it
agree.
and you understand.
And I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but I agree with you completely, and it will keep opening.
But it's not that you have an understanding, but you understand, I have to explore this. It's something, and it becomes important.
Right. Right. I agree. Anyone else?
Yeah. Because lately I'm just seeing that not having a meditation practice is kind of like deading.
Kind of like
Deading?
deading?
From myself, like deading from my own growth or my own connection.
Not getting the word.
Debt.
D-E-P-T?
Yeah,
Deading.
like I'm actually just kind of constantly running on zero.
Uh-huh,
The
uh-huh.
only way to fill it up is to have the meditation practice, yet I really lack tremendous, maybe it's lack of commitment.
Well, I think mostly it's habit. We're habituated to all the wrong things. You know, there are people going to AA meetings to stop drinking, but what about AA meetings for just the way you live? You know, we're mostly living, without a sense of, one, helplessness, which is really a true issue for human beings. We're all helpless. Mm-hmm. And asking for help from a higher power, whatever that may be. The discovery that that higher power is within you is an amazing discovery. But that's where it is. It's not out in the sky. It's not somebody looking down on you. It's living. It's you. That discovery is essential. But most of us, we don't take care of the outer, and therefore we don't have any time for the inner. That's why Rudy said, get your life together. When you become a whole person, you become really ready for this. But not everybody can be a whole person in the sense that we all exist with failing parts, imperfect parts. But part of the extraordinary thing of awakening is your imperfection is part of the perfection. You don't quit, you don't put yourself down for it. Yes, I'm imperfect. Yes, I've got all these crazy thoughts and all these, homicidal, maniacal kind of ideas in my head. We all do. Everybody does, kind of. Watch it work. It's really interesting. This election cycle, God knows what it's bringing up in people. Really, you see stuff about yourself, you go, whoa, what's that? And it's on both sides of the aisle. Everybody's a bit crazy right now. You got to see it. If you don't see it, you won't embrace it. And also knowing that it's there and allowing it to be you don't have to act on it, because if you act on it, then there's karma. But knowing it is another thing, and that knowing it is really important. So we become whole people ultimately, and only to see that our lack of completion is our completion. It's knowing it is what finally makes us complete. We are what we are, period. You accept it, you forgive it, you allow it, and you become free. Not by making it perfect, because you can't. You can't make anything perfect here, because the moment it's perfect, it's already starting to decay. So it's not doable. You're already perfect.
I'm going to share something, and I'm not sure if it really relates to this, but it just kind of triggered something in me. Is that for a while, I had stopped meditating, and I started to beat myself up because I couldn't get back into it. And instead of doing that, I realized that maybe I can learn from it. And I really started to understand what the meditation was bringing into my life. And not meditating, to me, was kind of like the yin-yang of meditating. And it was just as important for a certain period of time for me to say, okay, I get this. And
I buy that totally.
yeah,
You know, if you want to see what the value of meditation is, don't meditate. Or try meditating and stop. It's a great thing to do. Except unless you, it's like,
you lose the muscle.
yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say.
You really lose
So you don't go to the gym for a month and you see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, you build up muscle, then you stop working, you go, oh, I lose muscle. That's exactly what happens. Then you either go back to the gym or you go, okay, I'll lose muscle. And then you find out, you know, when you're younger than you should be, you can't walk, you can't lift, you can't continue with your day-to-day activities, and you pay a price.
It gets harder as
It gets
you
harder.
to get back into it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's have lunch, and then we're going to reconvene again here. It's around 3. I'm going to try to walk, because I need to walk. Anyone who wants to go for a walk is welcome to join me. And so we'll go after lunch, and then we'll come back here around 3, and we will have another meditation and talk. Questions and answers if you have them, and then we're going to all go to, whoever wants to, go to dinner, and then we'll meet tomorrow for those of you who want to come back. Okay? Thank you.